What is up, guys? It's Jimbo here, currently overwhelmed with the number of games to play at the moment. To talk about one of them I have been playing, which is Enshrouded. It launched into early access last week, so here I am once again to give you my thoughts and impressions, as between this and Palworld, I have been a very busy chappy in the last week. I've not sunk an overly large amount of time into the game, so let's talk about what I have played and whether or not you should jump into Enshrouded. Enshrouded is a action-adventure RPG with survival crafting elements added in. The game is made by a small development team, Keen Games, out in Germany, and it has a huge handcrafted map, survival crafting elements, combat skill trees, and a lot of other secrets to explore. The combat and exploration of Enshrouded borrows from a lot of other games in the action-adventure genre, which would be things like Zelda, Elden Ring, even Skyrim at times, where you'll end up going into caves, camps, towers, and just finding a whole lot of stuff, going out and exploring the map that does get littered with a lot of icons to be able to find stuff. But it's not exactly blasted into your face as soon as you open up the map. As you explore more of the map, it will obviously put icons in where you've actually explored. The game also borrows from a lot of other games in the survival crafting genre, and it has a voxel-based terrain system, which essentially means anywhere in the world that you have a pickaxe that has some form of terrain, you can dig to wherever you want to go. If you want to dig towards the center of the earth, go right ahead. If you want to dig around a specific obstacle to get some neat loot, then you can do. It has a robust building system that takes a little bit to understand in the beginning, but unlocks ample creativity as you play. And the closest thing that this can be compared to in terms of other games is Valheim. And I know that that is going to be a big tall task for this game to live up to that because of how popular Valheim is. But yeah, at least from all these gameplay elements, it's a combination of a few different games. What Enshrouded does is take all of these elements from other games, but place you in a handcrafted open world. This isn't a procedurally generated world that you see in a lot of other games, so it's different each time that you go into a server. No, everything is going to be handmade by Keen. They're able to put different things in certain areas, and they're trying to tell a specific story. To briefly touch on the story, it's told a lot through lore pages that you find throughout the world in points of interest. All of the different characters that you end up meeting in the game, or NPCs that you can have at your bases, have these different pieces of dialogue, and there is a quest system in the game that keeps you progressing forward as you play. It's not necessarily the same as other survival crafting games. It's definitely more of an adventure game, and it just slowly keeps you moving forward, and it plays into the exploration of the game. As of me making this video, I'd say maybe a third of the total map has been released in early access. I haven't fully explored any of that, and the map is rather large. There's a few different biomes that you can go and explore, and there's a lot of points of interest that you can go and see, and you can easily get another 30 to 40 hours of gameplay with all of the other systems within the game because of how big the world actually is. Exploration is heavily encouraged in this, but you will get sidetracked as you do so. There's different camps and points of interest that you'll run into. It's not just head towards a marker and that's where you're going. No, you'll get distracted all the time, and I would constantly just get distracted by different things, and I would try and head in a straight line to where I needed to go, and I'd end up never going to that marker because there was something cooler that I found I just wanted to go and see. I especially enjoyed the towers that are in the game. These are essentially like puzzle dungeons that you need to climb up and do some specific things, whether it's platforming or whether it's unlocking some specific switches that'll eventually get you to the top and give you a fast travel point that you can go between that and your base. And then upon reaching the top of it, you now are able to explore even further because you can craft yourself a glider very similar to the one that you have in Zelda, and just pick a direction and go wherever you want. The thing that Enshrouded does well here is that it's not just fluff for any of the markers that you are going towards. You'll go onto the top of a tower, pick a marker that you need to head towards. It's usually a question mark, and it's usually a quest that you'll need to go and get to, but there'll be active rewards that you'll need from wherever you're going, whether that's a new NPC that you can use to have in your camp for more crafting things, crafting a new weapon, finding new weapons that are upgradable, enemies, materials that you'll need, finding something that you can craft in your base later on. There's a lot of reasons to go and explore and have an adventure in the adventure game. There is only one problem I have though with this gameplay loop, is that it doesn't change up that much every time you reach a new biome, and it doesn't change however many hours that you've played. So I do feel like this will get very repetitive, or it won't evolve too much as you get 30 to 40 to 50 hours into the game, and it may need to have something that will change the gameplay style a little bit later down the line. Maybe some more enemies that could mix up the variety, or how the biomes are laid out, more dungeons and things that could maybe change it, rather than just the typical go to this place and get what you need to do. I will have to test as I get deeper into my time playing, as at the moment I've only got roughly 12 hours or so, but I know my friend has spent a lot more time exploring in the game than I have. During your exploration though, you will run into the main mechanic that Enshrouded has, which funnily enough is called the Shroud. These are fog-covered areas, and they have basically decayed everything. They'll have enemies in there, and essentially you can go into these places and find rare materials that you wouldn't find in just regular areas. You do have a countdown timer when you go into these areas, which adds just enough tension when exploring, because you can get sidetracked. So you need to make sure you keep an eye on that specific element, because sometimes you can be down to like a minute and you are really deep into the fog and you're like, I need to get out of here as quick as possible. And I have died a couple of times to like a more advanced version of the Shroud, which is called the Deadly Shroud, funnily enough. It's a very neat element, and it does something different to other crafted games that I've seen before. So I would like to see what it does and how it changes and evolves as I put more hours into the game. After exploration, we have the evolving of our player, the RPG elements of the game, which is in the addition of a skill tree. It has multiple pathways with specialities that you can go down, such as a battle mage, warrior, berserker. It leans into that adventure RPG gameplay that I've previously mentioned, and most of the common nodes will influence either your magic, your melee, or your ranged combat, or give you like more resources whenever you like destroy specific things out in the world. And I haven't spent an overly big amount of time getting to any of the end of these trees, because it takes a little bit of XP and more time to be able to get to that point. But I think this is going to be an element, especially in co-op, that a lot of people can have when it comes down to specific roles or builds that you can play into as you progress even further into the game. And when the full game launches, this could definitely be a key area that a lot of people will engage with. What I can give a little bit more thoughts on is the actual combat within the game. Combat consists of either melee based, which has you using swords, shields, two-handed weapons, ranged combat, which at the time of playing that I've just got a bow, and then technically ranged, but it's actually magic, is in the forms of wands and staffs that you can literally fire fireballs, ice bolts at people, enemies that you're causing you any problems, and they do require charges for the specific spells, and you can craft them as you get further down some of the crafting trees and you get certain NPCs and such. Combat does feel great though. It feels very snappy. The animations are pretty damn good as well. And there's also a tab lock-on system, which makes it very easy, 1 for firing spells, 2 for melee combat, and 3 for ranged combat, but you can manually fire as well if you want to try and go for some headshots. You will engage in combat quite a lot in this game compared to any of the other systems, but the issue that I have with the combat system is that while it's competent and very fun to do, it is rather simple. I don't really know how to explain it, but the game doesn't really give you anything more as you go from 10 hours to 20 hours. I don't really see too much difference in how the combat works. There's no real skill to it necessarily, and being an adventure RPG, I feel like they need to maybe tweak this or add some more things. More enemy variety would also be pretty good as well. A lot of the earlier areas, it does feel very empty at times. There isn't as many enemies as I like. There's a lot of like animals around and such. There are a few bosses in the game as well, and I've only really ran into one of them, and I know there's more, so maybe those will be more of a challenge that we can have. But as of my time of playing, I've only ran across the one boss, so I can't really comment too much more on them. But don't get it twisted. The combat is not awful or bad. I enjoy using magic especially. Fireballs are very nice to use, and also the ice bolts as well. Being able to use a wand instead of a staff with a shield is also pretty cool and a nice addition. There are fantasies in the combat system, like dual wielding swords in like the Berserker tree is going to be pretty cool to do, especially going down the battle mage route. And I think they play into that adventure RPG fantasy quite a lot here. You can also get gear in the game that you can craft yourself that will have specific talents and perks on that can influence it, like giving you more physical resistance or the type of damage you're doing, whether that's ice or fire or blunt or piercing damage. So that's a nice element as well. My only worry at this moment is that with the build system in the game, there isn't a massive influence when you are playing in combat, whether you're playing solo. It definitely feels like a more co-op designed system. Now, whilst you can play this game completely solo and you don't need to have anybody else, the co-op play of like setting into your roles of a tank and also like a healer, a magic user, and like a ranger could be something to have. But I don't really feel the combat is that hard or difficult or needs that type of role system yet. As I'm saying, it is early access, so maybe they'll incorporate that in future. I may not have spent a lot of time exploring or engaging with lots of combat, but I have spent a lot of time with the building system in the game. I spent maybe 2 hours rejigging my main house and then also making a blacksmith area and also a carpentry area for my NPCs. I just like that element. And the thing that I would say about the building system is at first it is very confusing until you understand how the build system works. Each building part is either a 1 meter block, 2 meters, or 4 meters blocks with the roof and terrain separate, but they still follow the same elements. It almost feels a lot of the time like Minecraft with the block system, and you can individually place blocks that you create to be able to build the thing that you want to build. There's a lot of things that you can do here. I do wish there was a few more presets that could allow for some different base designs, but I'm not an overly creative builder in most games that I play, but I've been able to make some really cool looking things, at least to me, in my short time of playing. And I can only imagine people that get a hold of this system and understand the presets and how everything works will be able to make some incredible buildings. I've already seen some already. The only thing that I would like to see, as I said, is more presets, but maybe some more curved specific things, because all the time in these games, there is only like straight lines and blocks. There's never anything curved, and I would like to maybe see that. It may be hard to do, maybe when it comes to the snapping system and such in the game, but alas, we'll see what happens in early access. The big kicker, though, to the building system is that you have to build it in the base area that you have. You can make the area bigger by upgrading the altar that you have, but you can't just build anywhere when you're out in the world. I can understand why the developers have done this, because a lot of one block towers, like how Minecraft is, you could be able to get into certain areas that they may not want you to be able to get into. They want you to engage with the puzzles and stuff, but it is a little bit restrictive, and that may be a little bugbear for some people. For me, I don't really mind it too much, but yeah, maybe in future they can get rid of this limit and allow people to build wherever they want to build. Enshrouded is big, bold, and tries to do a lot of things well, but a lot of them just feel competent. The world may feel a little bit bloated because the gameplay doesn't change up that much as you get deeper into it, but it's not bad. It's just trying to say, like, this game is a good start for where it is in early access. I don't really mind that the game has these competent systems that are meshed together, because they all work well together. There are certain ones that take a little bit more precedent over others, like you do more combat and the survival elements, and you don't necessarily need to engage in a lot of the survival style elements as long as you've got a little bit of food on you that you can just find while you're out. You don't even need to engage in the base building aspect of the game at all. You can maybe just set one down and then, you know, try and find NPCs. So eventually you will do, but it's not necessarily forced upon you. I've enjoyed my experience with the 12 hours or so that I've played, and I want to play a little bit more, but I just don't think I'll have the time at this present moment to be able to. I will say though, my friend has been exploring this game a lot more than I have while I have been building, so we've both experienced both sides of the game, and I can only imagine the amount of hours I could put into this game as I get more into it over the next few months, and with each update that they decide to bring out, with rentable servers, up to 16 player co-op, there's going to be a substantial amount within this early access launch that people will get out of it. They'll keep coming back, and it'll be very much in the same as how Valheim was talked about. When Valheim released, it was slowly building on its popularity. More people were playing it. They got better and better and better as the game went on, and I can see this happening very much with Enshrouded. It has a lot of potential, and I'm excited to root for the team to see where the game launches at 1.0 and where it will be when it gets to that point. But are you playing Enshrouded right now? Are you planning on jumping in? Let me know in the comments section, and if this video has been helpful or informative, please leave a like on it, subscribe if you're new, and turn on the notification bell as always, and make sure you click the link in the description to come and check out the Twitch stream where we're live talking about games and playing games and just having a lot of fun over there. And this has been Jimbo, and I'll see you guys next time.